Hello, everyone. My name is Danai Rodriguez, and I'm part of the Chronic Disease Management Clinic at the Community Health Center specializing in hypertension. In this presentation, I will be discussing the Squire 2.0 guidelines in regards to my project. The title of my project is Developing a Self-Monitoring Blood Pressure Program at the Community Health Center using the Target Blood Pressure Protocol established by the American Heart Association. The overall goal of this project is to be a part of the effort to increase the national average of controlled hypertension and prevent fatalities caused by this chronic disease. Other goals are reducing costs by decreasing the amount of hospitalizations as a result of high blood pressure. The following statistics are from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and are a frightening depiction of the prevalence of uncontrolled hypertension in the United States. The majority of the patients at the community health center have been diagnosed with hypertension, and a lot of them have a difficult time managing their blood pressure at home because of lack of resources or education. And as a result, they are at an increased risk for heart disease and stroke.
Hi, Denai. Those statistics are so mind-boggling, and especially at the CHC, the patients that are diagnosed with hypertension, it shows that they only have about 8% of them with the blood pressure under control, which is like, I know we see it all the time. We look through the charts, we see that there are medications, but on almost every visit, they come in, the blood pressure is not controlled. And when you interview them, they say, well, I've been taking my medication. But I was thinking, is it because when they come in, they probably out of medication? So maybe when they presented to us, they were not taking the medication maybe for weeks or months at a time. So I just thought of it. Maybe that's the reason why when we see them, their blood pressure is not does seem to be controlled because they were not taking the medication. Maybe some of them were, maybe it's a diet issue, but also it could be because they simply didn't have the medication to take when they came to the clinic, which is why I think this project is so important, trying to help them with resources like what you're doing, loading the blood pressure machine with the logs, and I think that's one step, and also encourage them to follow up more frequently, not to let them run out of medication, so that way there won't be that gap between when they last took their medication until they come with the blood pressure out of control, which can cause all kinds of problem like stroke and that sort of thing.
Many of you may already know hypertension as a silent killer because of its insidious nature. If it is left undetected, it can cause damage to major organs. Some dangerous health conditions caused by hypertension are heart attack, stroke, chronic heart failure, and kidney disease. Hypertension is the most prevalent diagnosis at the Community Health Center, which is why I have chosen to take part in this project. We are using the Plan, Do, Study, Act model to make sure our interventions are conducive to our overall goal. The plan portion of the PDSA model is used to identify patients with the greatest amount of risk factors for noncompliance and uncontrolled hypertension. The do part is identifying each patient's risk factor, and the study portion is analyzing data and isolating the patients with the greatest risk for noncompliance, and finally act upon it by educating these patients at risk and enrolling them in the self-monitoring blood pressure program. Data mining allows us to find potential participants for our study.
And yes, then I agree with like identifying patients at greatest risk for hypertension and related effects of it. And as we can see, going through the charts at the CHC, the majority of the patients with hypertension that actually go to that clinic are African Americans and Hispanics, and there's a selective group of Caucasian And looking to their charts, the blood pressure seems to be maybe a little better managed Caucasian population, and compared to the large Hispanics and African Americans. I'm not sure if it's a medication related, education related, or diet related, but the clinic, especially the population there, are at risk. Um, because we all know they go there because they don't have health insurance or they don't have the income to afford health insurance. So definitely, once again, I am so proud of we doing this project. And I think as it develops more, the patients are more involved, especially this semester when they come and meet us for education and with the diet and everything. They are so happy. They were like, wow, this is like, they seem to be more involved and like we're actually taking the time to sit down with them and educate them. Not to say that they couldn't do it before. Maybe they didn't have the volunteers. They didn't have the manpower to do it. So I'm so glad that we are involved, that we actually trying to make a difference in those people's lives.
Specific aims for our study involve educating patients on their disease and the consequences of uncontrolled blood pressure, encouraging medication compliance, promoting self-monitoring of blood pressure at home, and informing patients of lifestyle modifications. Some important things to consider when implementing our interventions are the patient's ability to follow up and how often, and their access to resources or willingness to comply. Many of these patients can't afford to miss work very often, so it's important to be mindful of that. It's also important to determine whether or not patients have the necessary resources to monitor their blood pressure at home, which is why we need to be able to facilitate this process for them and provide them with as many resources as possible to be successful on this journey.
Yes, and definitely this is one of the obstacles we face as far as um, trying to find out why they might be non-compliant. But I think, when they get more comfortable, they open up, they tell you a little bit more about themselves. They might say, well, I don't have a job, I don't have a car, I don't, or my husband works, but he can't take the day off to bring me to the clinic. So they come when they can find somebody that can bring them. So, like, yes, we have that there's a problem. So I think what we're doing is helpful, trying to get them to open up and see how we can help them find a better solution, as far as transportation for, to the CHC. I know that's pretty much impossible. They don't have the funds. So it's a big challenge trying to help people with what they have like limited resources to manage their chronic diseases. Because we can't make home visits because the CHC doesn't have that volunteer, the manpower to do that. So it's one of those things like moving forward that we have to try to come up with a solution. Maybe not, us, this group in particular, because the project is going to be ongoing. So definitely one of those things that we have to try and mitigate that and see that could be a big help, in getting those people to manage their hypertension and other chronic diseases they have.
Our interventions involve providing educational material, establishing a loan program for digital blood pressure machines, which will allow the patient to take home the machines for the duration of the project for self-monitoring of their blood pressure. Providing BP logs will help the patients and our clinic trend their progress. Setting individualized BP goals each visit will be done only if the patient has not already met their goal. Creating follow-up appointments will be done to assess patient progress and adjust medications if indicated. Providers will be available for medication adjustments.
I really like your intervention with the idea of providing the blood pressure cuffs for loan during this, because I think a lot of the problem is that the patients have no way of monitoring their blood pressure at home, and so they just wait until they go to the doctor's office to get their blood pressure done, and then the meds are adjusted based on that, and then there's no follow-up until the next doctor's appointment, which could be months away. So I think that giving the patient the blood pressure cuff on loan so that they're able to watch the trend of their blood pressures and ensure their medications are working properly will really do strides in helping people get their blood pressures under control.
Some ethical considerations involve obtaining IRB approval, obtaining patient consent, and ensuring protection of patient privacy. Appropriate IRB forms have been filled out and approval has been obtained. Consent forms have been created and contain full disclosure of the project, and patient privacy will be kept by using patient ID numbers only.
And Janai, overall, this is a really great presentation. Did a great job. Hypertension, I guess there's so many ways to go about, the problem. Like we all have different parts, and they're also important because you think about, managing blood pressure. There's so many circumstances that can arise why someone's blood pressure is not under control. So the fact that we're doing the proper measurement, medication adherence, educating the staff, the patients, that all plays a role into ultimately managing blood pressure. So once again, I really enjoy listening to your PowerPoint. I'm sorry, and looking forward to seeing you in clinicals. Keep working on the project. Go team.